My brother got married last weekend. I found out because the photos hit my screen before he ever said a word. Lily stared at her phone, her thumb frozen mid-scroll. The screen glowed with images she wasn't supposed to see. Evan, her older brother, in a sharp black suit, beaming beside a woman she'd never met before. Guests laughed and clinked glasses in the background, a golden haze of celebration and confetti surrounding them. Lily blinked, hoping the images were a trick, some cruel algorithmic mistake. But there it was. The wedding she had no invitation to, the smiles, the vows, the joy, and the absence of her presence. Her chest tightened, disbelief twisting into a strange knot of confusion and hurt. She swiped again, looking for some context, a caption, anything that explained why she had been left in the dark. Nothing. Not a single mention. She felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her, the familiar landscape of family suddenly foreign and cold hands shaking. Lily dialed Evan's number. 1 ring. 2 rings. Then voicemail. She tried again. And again. 6 times. Each call ending the same way. Each beep a silent confirmation of what she feared. Finally, a voice answered. Not Evan's, but Sienna's. Her tone was sharp, dismissive, a blade wrapped in casual words. "You're calling about what?" she asked, not even bothering to pretend curiosity. "About the wedding. Evan, why didn't anyone tell me?" Lily asked, trying to keep her voice steady. There was a pause, a slow exhale before Sienna's words cut through her like ice. "My wife doesn't want you there. She thinks you're pathetic." A flicker of Evan's voice whispered weakly in the background, unsteady and passive, offering no defense. Lily felt her stomach drop, a cold wave of realization washing over her. This wasn't just an oversight. It was deliberate. Shock curled into numbness. Numbness hardened into determination. Something inside Lily shifted, a quiet, icy resolve taking root. She wouldn't stay invisible. She wouldn't let someone else dictate her place in her own family. "Before I go on, where are you listening from? And tell me, in my place, what would you have done?" Lily was 23 when her world shifted in a single, irrevocable moment. Their mother, the anchor of their family, passed away unexpectedly, leaving a 14-year-old Evan and a void that seemed too vast for one person to fill. Overnight, Lily became both sister and parent, trading her own independence for the full weight of responsibility. She didn't hesitate. She just stepped in, knowing someone had to keep the pieces from scattering. The years that followed were relentless. Lily worked multiple jobs to keep everything afloat, office temp shifts during the day, event staffing at nights, freelance marketing projects sprinkled in wherever she could. Each paycheck went toward tuition bills she had once dreamed of completing herself, textbooks she'd never have time to read, robotics club fees for Evan, and the occasional senior trip he promised he'd never forget. Even furnishing the modest dorm room she managed for him felt like another line in a ledger she would never write in her own name. When the loft in the Crossroads district came up for sale, she bought it. For convenience, she told herself, though the price tag was steep. She built a $35,000 Europe travel fund for Evan, dollar by dollar, saving the loose change, skipping dinners out, passing on luxuries she would have enjoyed herself. Evan's wide-eyed gratitude often came with promises that tugged at her heart. "When I'm an engineer, I'll pay you back, with interest." Lily smiled and shook her head. "Family doesn't keep score," she would say. She believed it. She still does. Then Sienna arrived. She was a whirlwind of perfectly curated social media posts, designer bags, and measuring glances. She had a way of occupying the room, of leaning into conversations as if claiming a space that was never hers to take. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Lily noticed the shift. Calls with Evan became shorter. The warmth in his voice dwindled. And always, there was Sienna's presence at the edge of every conversation, her voice often hovering near the phone, as if to remind them both that she belonged there. Lily had sacrificed 15 years of herself, building everything Evan could dream of, nurturing him into adulthood while silently carrying the weight of her own deferred desires. Yet, despite the closeness they once shared, the bond that had been her anchor was subtly slipping away, replaced by someone else's influence, someone who measured her worth in glances and subtle exclusions. "Still, I never imagined I'd be erased." Not until that morning when I opened my screen and saw wedding photos. My brother in a suit I didn't know he bought, beside a woman wearing a dress I'd never seen, under lights I'd never been invited to stand beneath. The phone rang for what felt like the 100th time that day. Finally, Sienna picked up, her tone clipped and cold, each word a carefully aimed arrow. "You use money to keep him tied to you," she said, her voice sharper than she likely intended. "It's embarrassing." Lily took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm of hurt and disbelief rising in her chest. "I've paid for his tuition, textbooks, clubs, trips, every loft payment, every dollar of his travel fund," she said evenly. "I've given him a life so he could grow without worry. That's not control. That's family." Then Evan's weak, hesitant voice floated through. "You make things heavy. I need space." "Space?" Lily asked, her voice steady but icy. "After everything I've done for you, you're calling this heavy?" Sienna cut in, cruel and deliberate. "We're not living under your shadow anymore. He's moved on. You should too." The words landed like blows, and Lily's chest tightened. She ended the call with a quiet, measured, "I'll be by later," more out of ritual than expectation, knowing full well what awaited her driving to the loft. Her mind ran the script over and over. Confrontation, explanation, maybe even reconciliation. But when she arrived, the door opened and there was Sienna. Her smirk was effortless, phone angled like a weapon, ready to record every word, every emotion, every flicker of vulnerability, and behind her, Evan stood frozen, the posture she remembered from the night their mother had died. But this time it wasn't grief she saw reflected in his shoulders. It was cowardice. Lily opened her mouth, ready to speak, ready to reclaim a sliver of the family she had given everything to. But no words came. The air was thick with betrayal and alienation. She realized then that confrontation wasn't about explanations. It wasn't about justification. It was about boundaries she couldn't force anyone else to respect. She turned away. Step by step, she walked to her car, keeping her gaze straight ahead, refusing to let them see the fracture beneath her composed exterior. The elevator ride down was silent except for the faint hum of machinery. She caught her reflection in the polished metal. Controlled, collected, poised, but inside she felt wrecked. The devastation had been distilled into a quiet, freezing numbness, the kind that holds pain suspended, sharpening it for what comes next. By the time the elevator reached the lobby, the numbness had settled in. Not the kind that softens pain. This was the kind that freezes it in place, preserving it long enough for it to transform into something else. Something sharper. The loft was silent when Lily returned. The automated lights flicked on, casting an almost clinical glow over the empty space. It was hers, every corner, every countertop, but tonight it felt like neutral territory. A canvas waiting for her next move. She settled at her desk, opening her laptop and starting a document that would soon become a roadmap. Expense by expense, year by year, she cataloged everything. The loft purchase, mortgage payments, utilities, credit card bills she had carried for Evan, streaming subscriptions, the $35,000 Europe fund she had painstakingly built, airline tickets, robotics fees. Every sacrifice rendered into cold, unflinching numbers. Seeing it all in one place, the sum of years of devotion, brought a clarity she hadn't expected. It was no longer a blur of effort and emotion. It was concrete. It was undeniable. Late that night, she dialed Maya Lopez, a lawyer she had consulted once for a minor contract issue years ago. Maya's calm, measured voice filled the quiet room. "Everything is under your name. Sole ownership," she confirmed almost casually. As if stating the obvious, Lily let the words sink in. The structures she had built, the money she had spent, the years of care. She had the legal power to sever it all. To reclaim boundaries. To erase the shadow that others had cast over her generosity. Maya's voice took on a lighter tone. "Let's make sure you're pathetic on paper too," she said, laughing softly. She sent Lily templates, legal forms, letters that could formally establish limits and protections. Lily reviewed them methodically, her mind operating like a precise machine. Each checkmark, each form, each plan reinforced a new reality. She wasn't powerless. She was strategic. She realized quietly, almost reverently. Collapse wasn't the end of a structure. It was the clearing of space. And in that space she could operate, not in chaos or desperation, but with intention. Morning came without her permission. She hadn't slept. She had only moved between spreadsheets, phone calls, and the crystalline calm of planning. At 9:01 a.m., she made the first call. 9:01 a.m. on the dot. Lily sat at her desk, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The first domino was simple. The Europe airline tickets. She called the airline, navigated the automated system, and within minutes confirmed the cancellations. 60% of the cost would be refunded, the remainder credited toward future bookings. She leaned back, letting the confirmation email settle in her inbox. Honeymoon cancelled, she typed quietly in her notes. A small, almost imperceptible satisfaction flickered across her chest. Next came the $35,000 travel fund. Years of painstaking savings, painstakingly accrued, evaporated into her own account with a few swift clicks. Penalties accepted. Refunds processed. Each number recalculated. Each balance confirmed. It was meticulous. It was necessary. And most importantly, it was final. She dialed Reed Thompson, the realtor she had worked with years ago, and gave the instructions. "List the loft," she said simply. No explanations, no apologies. Reed's response was businesslike, clipped, professional. No judgment, no hesitation. By mid-morning, the loft was listed. Within hours, offers were coming in. She took the cash offer above asking price. Just like that, the home that had housed years of sacrifice was now a liquid asset, moving quickly out of reach. One by one, she methodically stripped every link. Utilities were transferred out of her name. Streaming accounts cancelled, passwords changed. Evan's presence on the family phone plan removed. His authorized user status on the credit card revoked. Each action felt like brushing dust off a table. Simple, quiet, necessary. Nothing dramatic, nothing emotional. Just precision. The building manager called mid-afternoon, voice hesitant. "Just to confirm. Occupants weren't aware of these changes." "That's not my responsibility," Lily replied evenly, letting the words hang in the air. Every task completed with a steady hand, every line in the spreadsheet a testament to years of devotion and frustration. There was no triumph, no gloating. Only clarity, efficiency, and the undeniable sense that control had finally returned to her. By the time the last task was done, Lily stood in the kitchen staring at her hands. They didn't shake. They had been steady through the cancellations, the transfers, the deletions. She drafted a text. Not long. Not emotional. Just the truth, stripped clean. "You wanted independence. You have it now. Do not contact me again." She hit send. She blocked his number before she could see the typing bubbles. And in that quiet, ordered moment, the system she had built, her life, her boundaries, was finally hers alone. Lily's phone buzzed with a voicemail from the building manager. She didn't listen immediately, already knowing what it would say. When she did, she let the words settle without comment. "Sienna showed up this morning. Furious." She claimed there must have been a mistake. No calls from Evan reached her. Each attempt blocked. Each ring that didn't connect was a quiet confirmation of the boundaries she had set. Reed's email came next, crisp and official. Buyer's deposit cleared. Closing complete. Funds transferred. And then the 10-day eviction notice. Not delivered to her, but she imagined it clearly. Sienna's indignant gasp as she read the first line, Evan's stunned silence, the weight of the consequences landing squarely on them. Lily didn't witness it directly. She didn't have to. She could feel the ripple, the domino effect of every action she had meticulously orchestrated. Her chest, which had been tight for years under the burden of sacrifice, loosened slightly. Not relief, not yet, but something quieter. It was like the first inhale after a long dive underwater. A small, measured return of air to lungs that had been holding for too long. Evan eventually showed up at Reed's agency. Eyes wide, voice shaky. Why did everything shut down? His only answer was the truth, stripped down and simple. She went too far. Lily imagined it, and a soft laugh escaped her lips. Not cruel. Not bitter. Just the recognition of clarity. She had acted decisively without losing herself, without waiting for permission or validation. The world she had built for herself and lost to obligation was finally reclaimed, in silence and order. And the real climax didn't come from a call or a sale or a refund. It came from the silence. Days passed, weeks, no messages, no attempts through friends, no apologies. Just the echo of a relationship that had relied entirely on her effort, now fading into the quiet she had longed for, and finally, deserved. 4 months passed. 4 months of absolute, unbroken silence. And in that silence, Lily discovered something unexpected. Her life didn't unravel. It grew quieter, sharper, steadier. The weight she had carried for so many years seemed to settle, leaving space for clarity and momentum. Work. Recognition came quietly but undeniably. A promotion, not flashy but meaningful, shifted responsibilities and respect her way. She moved into a smaller place that actually felt like hers, each corner and window reflecting choices she had made for herself, not for anyone else. She booked a solo trip to Yellowstone. No plans, no compromises, just because she could. And she realized with a small, contented smile that silence, it turned out, could be a kind of freedom. Then, late one evening, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She hesitated, but curiosity won. Evan's voice emerged, wrecked, thin, cracked, breaking the calm she had nurtured. "Lily, it's me," he began, words stumbling over one another. He explained in broken pieces. Sienna had burned through their savings, the honeymoon cancellation had humiliated her, they'd lost the loft and were scrambling for rentals. Sienna had left him for someone with more opportunity, taking half their debt with her. His plea came at the end, desperate, fragile. "Can I stay with you, just until I get back on my feet?" Lily breathed in once, slow and full, letting the air fill her chest and steady her heartbeat. The years of compromise, the countless sacrifices, the betrayals and dismissals, all crystallized into clarity. "No. You wanted independence. Live it," she said, her voice calm, unwavering. She hung up. She blocked the number immediately, letting the sound of the click resonate like a final lock. There was no triumph, no gloating. Only a steady, resolute calm, the satisfaction of boundaries honored, of self preserved. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a caretaker or a pawn. She felt like herself. I didn't feel triumphant when I set the phone down, just steady. The way a door feels when it finally clicks shut after hanging crooked for years. Lily's life is smaller now, quieter, gentler, and finally her own, but for the first time in years it feels clean. She wakes up without that familiar crushing ache in her chest, the quiet dread of wondering who might need saving next. Her mornings belong to her again. Coffee tastes like coffee, not crisis management. And her phone stays blessedly silent. No buzzing desperation demanding she fix something she didn't break. Her weekends aren't spent putting out fires anymore. Now, she hikes alone on the shaded trails behind her apartment complex, breathing in a kind of peace she didn't know she was allowed to have. She cooks meals for one, simple dishes she actually likes, and fills her home with things she chose, not things she was guilt-pressed into keeping. Every corner of her life feels intentional instead of inherited. And she says it plainly now, without shame or apology. Cutting him off wasn't revenge. It was survival. Because boundaries aren't cruelty. They're clarity. They're the line between helping someone grow and helping someone avoid ever having to. Family might be family, but that doesn't make them entitled to your time, your energy, or your constant repair work. Support is love. Enabling is self-abandonment. And real independence, real adulthood, means facing the consequences of your choices, not handing them off to the sibling most likely to say yes. Evan learned that independence without gratitude leads to isolation. Lily learned that loyalty without reciprocity is just a slow form of self-destruction. And here's the truth she holds now, without bitterness, just certainty. You cannot cut someone out of your wedding and expect them to keep building your life for you. Her peace doesn't come from punishing him. It comes from alignment, from finally living in a way that matches her values, not her fears. From choosing herself in a story where she'd been an afterthought for far too long. If you've ever had to draw a hard boundary with family, you're not alone. Tell me where you're listening from, and what you would have done in Lily's place. Drop a comment. Did she go too far? Or should she have done it sooner? If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe, because family loyalty is complicated, and sometimes the hardest person to be loyal to is yourself. And next week, a new story about someone who thought they found the perfect partner, until they learned their fiancé had been living a double life for 3 years. You won't believe how it ends.